This is the man that they tapped at first, and then they picked Sonia Sotomayor, but he's next, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg is set to step down with health problems in the next year, and they will ram him through the House and Senate. They will get him approved in the Senate. That's where they do that. And we will be stuck with a man who is engaged in criminal high treason. As a citizen, you can say there's no right to keep and bear arms and we need to ban them. But you can't be in a government position and call for that. That is treason. And you can't be in a government position and call for arresting people for their free speech. And you can't be a private citizen and say we need to infiltrate peaceful groups and try to get them to commit acts of violence so we can break up their political movements. And he says all that in his Harvard paper written by University of Chicago Law School and Harvard University Law School. Look at it. Read it. Don't watch the stinking playoffs this Sunday. If you care about your future, you better make time to read this. Governments killed 200 million people. The same big banks funded the communist and the fascist on record to go in and loot and rob the middle class. The same banks funded the Russians in the early 1990s to set up 6 oligarchs to rob the country. We know who these people are. They're George Soros, Rockefeller, Rothschild funded on record. They openly want to ban your free speech. Read it. He says if you criticize the government in any way and differ from anything that is government policy, you are to be arrested, or at the bare minimum, newspapers that publish things. See, for little people, they want to arrest us. For big newspapers and publications, he says, a special discriminatory tax against you. We have all the quotes boiled down in Paul Watson's article from yesterday. Obama information czar outlined plan for government to infiltrate conspiracy groups. Sunstein called for COINTELPRO-style effort to silence truth using army of hired provocateurs. Here's another one. Obama information czar calls for banning free speech. Now, we've actually read the document, and our articles are the most damning. But you can go to the Village Voice, to Raw Story, to all these big liberal publications. They have headlines like, Got Fascism? And they point out how illegal this is. Now, look, I have read the thousands of pages over the years of the COINTELPRO documents. And if you don't know what COINTELPRO is, you need to just Google the term and go to Encyclopedia Britannica. It's where the FBI and federal government took over state police, namely, and infiltrated mainline, extreme, you name it, churches, any community groups, any soup kitchens, anybody that tried to create local community. The feds don't want that. They want collapse of society for dependence. And they have the same system under common purpose in England. And Cass Sunstein says, we're doing this. He says, we'll go on the web, we'll pose as conspiracy theorists. That's anybody that questions any official government dogma. Because people don't trust the government anymore, or even the government's experts. So we need to secretly hire experts to go on TV. He mentions Like Popular Mechanics, which is run by Chertoff's nephew. That's right. Former head of Homeland Security, making all this money off the naked body scanners. And he goes on to say that we will go in there and call for violence to run off and break up the groups because these people are pacifist, and we know pacifism is the most effective against us, is what he said. And he said that we'll try to get others to do things illegal so we can arrest them. Now, that's illegal. That's more than entrapment. That's provocateuring. And it's illegal. Can you imagine someone set to be the next Supreme Court justice who openly says on television that he wants to restrict the Second Amendment and there's no right to keep and bear arms, and that soon the courts will rule in the next 3 years to overthrow the Second Amendment? I played that clip earlier. Can you imagine someone that says there's no right to free speech? Can you imagine that's who the government, that's who Wall Street wants? And why did they get rid of Van Jones? He was bad on a lot of fronts, but he was against government-sponsored terror and signed a petition for 9/11 truth. This guy says arrest someone if they talk about 9/11 truth. He says that should be illegal. He's an establishment person. That's why you're not going to hear much from Fox News about getting rid of him. We need to push this story out into the open, make it a big issue. But hell, they're keeping White House science czar John P. Holden, who wrote the 1,100-page book Eco Science, calling for poisoning the water supply to sterilize the public, and who calls for a, quote, planetary dictatorship to carry out the orderly extermination of the population. I mean, that's what I mean. Every czar is a ultra-radical extremist, would-be enslaver and killer. I mean, you cannot... These writings are worse than Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, and Mao. I've read their writings. I've read Mein Kampf. I've read the writings of Lenin and Stalin. I've read Marx and Engels. They weren't even this bold in print. I mean, they're telling you what they're going to do to you. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And he goes on and on. I'm going to play some of these audio clips for radio listeners, video clips for the PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. I just, it's unending. The books, the white papers, the videos of them saying, oh, I love Mao, oh, I love Lenin, oh, I love Stalin, oh, my God, I can't wait to arrest all these people. Editorials written by Daily Kos about how they can't wait to use the military against American gun owners. Just frothing, wicked, demonic, horrible tyrants launching all these new wars, masquerading with lisping, effeminate, fake liberal voices. They're not liberals, folks. These are monsters. They're as liberal as Joe Stalin. I mean, it's just... And the average limp-wristed, patchouli-wearing liberal running around thinking they're... You people are sick, man. You are sick. I mean, I am absolutely shaken by these people. We must resist them.
Like an angel, but I got wise. You're the devil in disguise.
Oh, yes, you are, big government Obama. Yeah, we're wise to you.
You fool me with your kisses.
Now, I want everybody to listen to me very, very carefully because I'm going to lay out the enemy's battle plan. Why do you think in Europe and the United States, masses of poor immigrants have been brought in and paid to be brought in many cases by the government? Why do you think in Minnesota they've brought in more than 1 million people in just the last decade in Minnesota alone? The government pays to fly them there. Because then the government gets them on welfare, keeps them as basically kept political slaves who will then vote for gun control, vote for open borders, vote for restrictions in free speech for tiny little payoffs. And they tell them, oh, you're going to get free health care. Then they raise everybody's taxes, cut everybody's health care. They even rip off the slaves. The slaves don't know that, though. They come from countries of enslavement. They don't know any better. They didn't have George Washington to set things up. That's why the system demonizes this country, because it's been the best. It's not perfect, but heads above everything else. Heads and shoulders, mountains above many. So they're bringing them in here, and when you read what these people write, they go, very soon we're going to be basically half foreigner, and there's nothing the middle class can do. We're going to take over and arrest them. They actually do want... Folks, think about it. Every one of these czars says, we are going to ban your guns. They introduce the bills where the attorney general can ban any and all guns he wants to himself. If you're on a no-fly, you're on a no-buy. All of this stuff. Then they say, we don't know why people are saying we want your guns. We don't know why there's record purchases of guns, because people actually went and read the bills. But see, Cass Sunstein, in his conspiracy theory papers and reports, says, if people think there's a move to get their guns, it's a conspiracy. But I do want to ban them. See, it's a mental game he plays where he's God, you're the child, and he tells you what to do. He says there's no global government. Doesn't matter if Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the UN, calls for it in the New York Times in speeches in the last month. It doesn't matter if Herman von Rompuy, the head of the EU, calls for it and says Copenhagen Treaty is to bring in world government taxes to be paid to offshore banks. It doesn't matter if open world government's being announced literally in thousands of newspapers in the last year. Go to Google. Type in global government, global governance, and click news. And it'll show you just in the last week how many articles there have been in the first block. When they had the G20, there were over 2,200 articles in 1 week calling for New World Order world government. Now, they're openly announcing world government, but Cass Sunstein says you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to address that it's real. You're not allowed to discuss it. It doesn't exist. You need to be arrested. Look, there's the Wall Street Journal, global government. Look at all those global governments right there. You can go read thousands and thousands. 94,000 hits came up under Google News. This isn't web. This is newspapers.